So we've been learning about labor laws in Mexico, and I understand you have a lot of experience working for a multinational company that works in Mexico. And I wondered if you could share with us what do you do and what type of company you work for.
Sure. I have worked for three different companies with operations in Mexico. The first one was a wholly owned American company with a half dozen subsidiaries in Mexico, and then it was bought by a French company, which changed how we did things a little bit. And now I'm at another American company with only two main facilities in Mexico.
Great. And how does your current company structure the operations in Mexico, and how do you staff your facilities there?
Okay, so now I'm in the procurement organization. I started out in the legal department because this is import-export regulatory compliance. So to me, the legal department was the best fit. In France, they have this aligned with their tax group because they have a value-added tax, which doesn't exist in the States, so they put us in the tax group. And then here I was in supply chain management, and now it's procurement. And as far as how we do the staffing, we rely heavily on our HR department in Mexico. They provide tremendous support. And the whole team that I have in Mexico reports up through one local Mexican manager, and he reports to me. So I trust him to staff the positions he has beneath them, and if I needed to switch out my manager, then I would be directly involved with that.
Great. And tell me some ways that your staffing model has been successful. As you mentioned, there's one main person there. Mm-hmm. He finds people within Mexico, and then he reports up to you. What are some things that work well?
Couple things that work really well is, unfortunately, Americans don't speak Spanish very well. So our company, this is a corporate requirement that they give all of our applicants an English test. If they're going to have any interactions with the parent company, they have to pass an English test. That's very helpful, written and oral. My team has outlined the key requirements for whatever role they're going to fulfill, and so they have to pass that test. And of course, then they have your regular conversational interview questions as well. But all of those tests are very helpful.
Great. And then conversely, can you share some challenges that you might have faced?
Sure. Here's an example where the laws in Mexico are very different than in the United States. We had someone who seemed to be well suited for the position, competent in technical and verbal skills. And there is a physical exam that's required before the company can hire the individual. And this person had, I think, a touch of scoliosis or something that didn't impair her visibly in any way. She was able to walk just fine, but because it showed up on a doctor's report, we weren't able to hire her. And that was a loss to our company. We felt terribly that we couldn't hire her. And in the U.S., on the flip side, we could not hire someone because they had scoliosis. We couldn't even know that. But in Mexico, that totally came into play.
Wow, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Sure. And I wondered if you could share an example also about performance management. So we've been studying in our class about how managing performance looks different in other countries, and I understand you had a situation with one of your host country nationals.
Mm-hmm. Yes, when I was hired into this company, we had a very senior manager in place, and his resume was impeccable. He had worked for customs. You couldn't find someone that would know customs better other than someone who had worked there many years. However, his interpersonal skills were terrible. And so the challenge was weighing the benefits of his knowledge and ensuring the compliance of the company with the impact on the team. And he needed to be able to develop a team and not lose team members. And he was developing them, but he was also, driving team members to leave the company. So that was really unfortunate.
And how did you end up resolving the situation, or what did your company do about it?
So there was a very large gap in the amount of experience he had and the next amount of experience of the next team member. And while we could have hired from the outside, someone from the outside would have had a long learning curve then getting to know our company and our systems and so forth. And we'd rather hire from within. And our staff seemed to have some really good options. So we held off as long as we could, and then we put the senior manager on a contract role for special projects, quote unquote, where we would give him something he could do working from home. We gave him a laptop to work from home and made him available if we needed to consult with him to see how the younger, less experienced manager would handle this amount of responsibility. If he needed to turn to the former manager, he would be available for 1 year. And if he didn't need to, well, then he'll have just proved himself during that 1 year period. So it was a good trial period and a good way for the company not to be left, unprotected or unsupported.
Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing about your experience. This is very helpful for us to understand, and I appreciate your time.
You're welcome.